correct. We stay with that. I'm joined now by retired LA police officer and author, Sergeant Cheryl Dorsey. Good evening, Sergeant, and thank you very much for your time. Not to downplay this moment, it's a very significant moment. In fact, a lot of Americans that I spoke to even last night saying they are not excited but breathing a sigh of relief. However, when you look at the extent of the complaints against police in the United States and this one guilty verdict, how does it compare for you?
Well, this was a great first step. It was a baby step. There's so much more work that needs to be done. There is a Derek Chauvin on every police department, sadly, probably more than one, across the 18,000 that exist in the United States. And when you allow an officer like Derek Chauvin to amass 22 personnel complaints, having only disciplined him once, you do very little to deter that bad behavior. So while the conviction was an important first step, we yet have to wait for sentencing. I'm hopeful that the sentence will be commensurate with the crimes that he's been convicted of, but understanding he's a first-time offender, and so it will probably not be what most would want in this case. But again, this will set a precedence, and maybe having a police chief come in and testify about how their officers are trained, having trainers come in and speak to that, having field supervisors be part of the cadre of witnesses might be helpful and ensure further guilty verdicts when you have an officer accused.
Thick wall or thick blue wall had been down at least for a moment, but many are saying, well, it is down because particularly in this case, there was video footage. If there wasn't, we will be talking something different.
Well, listen, this isn't really the blue wall coming down. These are command staff officers, as we refer to them, a captain, a commander, a lieutenant. These are not the people that are in patrol cars day to day going out and engaging in police misconduct. And so we need our administrators, our command staff to create an environment that's conducive to the officers in patrol to speak on misconduct. We already have a duty to report. We already have a duty to intervene. But why would an officer do that if you know that you don't have the support, number one, of your peers, ultimately of the watch commander, and then your captain and on up the chain to the chief? If you know you don't have their support, why would you put yourself in jeopardy?
Let's talk then about the other police officers who were also with Derek Chauvin. Does legal accountability need to be, I suppose, administered to them as well, and what does it look like?
Absolutely. They have a part to play. They're complicit. Listen, no matter their time on the job, these are full-grown people. These are police officers. They took an oath. And so when they did not intervene, when they did not stop the misconduct that was occurring, when they did not stop the murder that happened, they too are just as guilty. And so now there's going to be a consequence for each of them. And I imagine probably today they're all consulting with their legal counsel to see who's going to be the first to want to flip on the others or offer some kind of a plea so that they don't suffer the same fate as Derek Chauvin.
Of course, there's been a lot of analysis and reaction to how the prosecution conducted this particular case. What does it say? I mean, they literally took on the system and they were successful at it.
Yeah, the prosecution did a phenomenal job, but I have to give weight to the sworn testimony of a chief of police. You don't see that happen very often. It's not uncommon for officers to testify peer-to-peer against one another at an administrative hearing. But when you start dragging in the police chief and a couple of his command staff officers to speak on training and how this violates what it is that they expect of their officers, it kind of shifts everything. We saw the defense try to confuse the jury by bringing in others, but they can't weigh their commentary against a police chief who heads a department and say that what he just said under oath is somehow not credible and not to be believed.